who interrogated you? Say a Russian and a Chinese officer.
The Soviet officer seemed to be in charge of this particular camp, and the Chinese officer his cohort was actually the man who administered the torture. Once that started.
Do you want to go into the torture at all, or would you
really
prefer
don't.
not to? Yeah, I thought so. How about how many men were tortured? Were you all tortured?
We were all tortured, and when it was all said and done, there were 3 of us alive. When we were finally released, I shouldn't even say released.
You were rescued, actually.
We were rescued by a Marine Recon Patrol, and boy, I'll tell you, I love those guys.
I guess you do.
All you Marine Recons out there, aces up, buddies. That's the only reason I'm alive today.
Well, so there are 3 of us survived. So 13 came out of the Cambodian airport. You lost 2 from friendly skies, friendly fire. And then across the jungle, you lost 2 more, and now you're down to what, 8?
Had 8, and we ended up losing the Montagnard that was with us, that we'd pulled with us. he was ready to start squealing and tell who we were, so we decided loose lips sink ships from the old briefing days, so they just took him out. We took him out ourselves.
Okay, this is before you were captured then?
No, after we were captured.
Oh, did you? Okay, okay.
We were bringing him back to put in front of that colonel before these guys did to that colonel what they intended to do to him.
Okay. So can I mention the colonel that you had a medal on his, a religious medal on his...
Our captain.
A captain had a religious medal on his, around his neck.
Had a St. Christopher medal. I think that's right. I'm not sure, the medal of travel
Catholic,
or something
yes.
like that.
And they, just if I can mention this, just one thing, one of the tortures that they did was skin him alive, right?
Skinned him alive, right.
In front of the rest of you.
Put him in a configuration like a cross as a Christian, and skinned him alive in front of us. Held knives and bayonets to our temples. Required us to watch it. If we closed our eyes or tried to turn our heads, they'd start pushing in.
God have mercy on his soul. Tragic. Then, so you're rescued. And there was a fight there at the camp between the Marines.
The Marines didn't know we were in the encampment. They came in. They were mapping the area for Lamson 719 was the mission number. They were just simply in there mapping the area, and they were told if they came across any prisoner of wars, do what you need to extract them. So they were actually found out by the guards, and a firefight ensued. Our guys won, and 3 of us were left alive after that. However, one of our guys from a Chinese officer had a stomach wound. That was pretty unfortunate. He was a good Kansas kid, you know. He had a stomach wound, and I was told when we were debriefed that he later died from that wound. We had gotten out of the cages and started running for the jungle, and I recall seeing one of the young Marines go down on a knee, level down on me, and I was running. My weight was on my right leg, and he shot a ricochet. It wasn't a full force bullet. A ricochet hit me in the leg, bent my leg backwards. I tumbled, and I'm also told that a grenade went off, and it hit me in the back of the head across here. Pretty good scar back there right now that rendered me unconscious and caused a lot of swelling on the brain. So I was air evac'd from Saigon. I was air evac'd into Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines.
Well, did the Marines, if he was firing at you, he didn't realize you were an American?
We were, they didn't know we were there.
And at what point were the Marines aware that they had some POWs on their hands?
Our team member that was shot in the stomach started yelling in English to them, and so they realized that there were some in there.
Good, okay.
So he saved our lives.
And so you came out, and you went over to Clark Air Force Base after that.
Right. And that when I finally came to later, within 3 days, that man from Saigon, Bill Colby, was there to debrief me. And at that point, he told me that I have 2 choices. I can work directly for the CIA, or I can stay with the military, which I've had such great experiences with at that point, and work under the operational control of the CIA. Well, you know, honestly, I figured, hey, you know, I've got this tour in Vietnam. I can stay in the States now. I never have to come back. I said, okay, I'll stay in the military because with the CIA, I know I could go anywhere, you know. But I had a government commitment still, so I said, I'll stay with the Air Force. You guys can control my assignments. Little did I know that I'd spend more years back in that arena, working later for a company called Air America.
In the debriefing session, if you can tell us this, were you informed of the fact that as to who put the orders out that none of you should return, none of you should come back alive?
He told me that it was Nixon gave the order that no one can survive. And Bill said that when he got that order in, Haig and Kissinger disagreed with it, but the orders came from the commander-in-chief himself. So he had to plan the contingency as such. He said, but Sergeant Tatum, I planned it so that I knew you guys could overcome this obstacle.
The two mountain men.
That's right.
But
we just didn't have a contingency for the rest of it. Nothing you can do. When you have a United States Army colonel and United States Air Force colonel both become traitors to their country.
Where are these colonels today?
I don't know.
Okay. So much for that question.
That's the safe answer.
I wouldn't put money on that one. Okay. Anyway, so be it. Let's leave that as is. You come back, you go to work for the Air Force on a contingency plan to also work with the CIA, right?
Operational control. All my orders at that point would be controlled by the Central Intelligence Agency. They would work through... Actually, the position that they used to work to gain movements, as I would receive orders and see who signed the orders, was a person who would be seated as the Deputy Director of Intelligence to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And most of the orders that I have, you'll see, they may be in there, one of them may be in there. You'll see that this person is the person who would sign those orders through the years and actually move me from one place to another. At one point, that man's name was Colin Powell.
So, what was Colin Powell's rank at that time?
I think he was a two-star general at that time. That position was a two-star position.
So, in essence, you actually went to work for the CIA, even though you were in the military.
Even though I was
status.
In the military, and pretty illegal. You know, you can't. We couldn't draw checks from two entities, double dip, but our operational efforts were all controlled by the CIA.
And what were your assignments after that? You came back, you recovered, you gained your health back. When you were being taken care of physically and regaining your health, was Pop with you, your friend from Oklahoma?
No, he had been sent straight back to the States. His head wounds, he received head wounds also. They were so severe that he had to go straight back to the Trauma and Care Center.
So that was the end of your relationship or association with Pop?
Until later years, yeah.
Until later years, okay. Right. You've been in touch with him since then, okay. But right now you're going to work, you're still in the Air Force, you're going to work for the CIA. What were your assignments?
One of the assignments, to give you an example, I was moved all over the place. I was sent down working, because it was such an intense mission and there was a lot of knowledge on my part, the orders were they wanted to hold me close to the White House, so I was actually...
Weren't they afraid you were going to talk?
Well, that's what they wanted to ensure, you know. If they just gave me open movement, it's one thing, but they kept me under very tight reins. I worked at Key Biscayne at Homestead Air Force Base in the White House down there. I was in charge of the receiver site for Air Force One when they would come in. In addition,
was Nixon the president then?
Nixon was the president then.
Weren't you a little nervous over that?
As a matter of fact, myself and my NCOIC were going out to the control tower to bring in Air Force One at one point, and he had made a mention to the Secret Service as they were checking badges of personnel going in, saying, he said, "Can I see, what are you doing in the area?" And the Master Sergeant said, "Oh, we're here to see the crook." We found ourselves face down by the Secret Service, and then when they got our credentials, they said, "What are you guys doing talking like that?" So,
little did they know, huh?
Well, he was just joking, you know.
Yeah. Little did they know that Nixon had given the order that you were not to return from an assignment
and
in
I never
Cambodia.
told him that, you know.
Right.
I had never told my NCOIC. I kept my lips closed and zipped for all 25 years, and in 1996, that was the end of the 25-year classification period, and I started my book then.
But before we go up to 1996, Chip, you had some assignments involving drugs and drug running by the CIA, right?
Well, and yeah, in
You're not reluctant to talk about that, are you?
no, in two different arenas. In in the Vietnamese conflict, there was some involvement simply because the Air America pilots, sometimes would carry drugs, sometimes they'd carry wheat, sometimes they'd carry rice, sometimes they'd carry weapons. There was various cargoes that they'd carry, and my job when an aircraft went down, primarily because they were carrying crypto gear, communications gear that was secret and had codes on it that couldn't be gotten by the enemy. I would have to jump in, I'd retrieve this crypto gear, and many times retrieve the precious cargoes that was on board, heroin sometimes, and see that it was extracted.
Air America being a CIA air operation.
CIA air operation. Yeah.
So you had that in Vietnam, and then you came back and you went to work. You were involved in.
Actually, when Nixon went to Peking, I was involved in that.
Okay, tell us about that.
I was sent ahead of him into a place called Guam. I controlled the aircraft across, and then I was moved over closer. And
What year are we now?
That was, I think, 72.
Okay.
Maybe 72.
So you went to Guam. You were to control the air traffic.
Controlled the Air Force One across, and then we were also one of the primary communication stations. I was moved to a place that we use today even as a primary commo spot, and I can't give that place away, but it's very close to China, to the Chinese border. Then we were moved there to maintain contact in case there was an emergency, so we could put fighters in.
And but that was it. I mean, basically, you were just guiding the plane. I mean, keeping the lanes open so no other aircraft would be in that air lane, right?
We'd keep aircraft 25 miles from Air Force One. We'd have two fighter aircraft in front of Air Force One, two fighters to the rear, and have rescue aircraft up in different locations along the way.
And okay, there's nothing unusual about him going to Peking, though, was there?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
Other than he's the first president,
to go to China.
Right, and now going along with him with open access was Dr. Kissinger. So. Right.
Okay, let's go back to your CIA activity in South America, and Central America.
In 1978, I actually left service of the government.